As you're taking your seats, I'm going to introduce you to Daniele Zannotti. That's right, bingo. Right, so Daniele is a senior front-end engineer at Treasure Data, a service which connects data in teams with a suite of tools to automate data collection and processing. But he's not jet-setting around the world. He can be found in West Cornwall crafting web applications using the latest JavaScript tool. Daniele is going to discuss the future of the JavaScript landscape, what can be expected in the coming years, and how you, yes you, can use tomorrow's JavaScript today.
Wow, what an introduction. As Gary said, I'm Daniele Zannotti, I'm from Florence, Italy. I've been living in Cornwall for the past 10 years, which means that I get to make lots of Mario impressions, enjoy pasties and pizza, which is great. I'm a senior front-end engineer at Treasure Data, which is a live data management platform. We help businesses import large amounts of data, analyze them, and then export them again to whichever platform they prefer to. To put this in context, with all our clients combined, we import about 1.7 million records per second every day, which is a huge amount of data, both for us infrastructure-wise and for everybody to export. I love live and breathe code, and quite frankly, I'm not very good at doing much else anyway. I'm really passionate about user interfaces and developer experience, because I strongly believe that from a great developer experience comes a great applications. You can find on Twitter, GitHub, or Kernow DAT Redux. So, JavaScript. JavaScript was created in 1995 by Brendan Eich in 10 days. It was commissioned by Netscape, which had just turned down a buyout offer from Microsoft, who wanted to enter the browser world, and Netscape, knowing that Microsoft wanted to enter the browser world, wanted to keep an edge on the lead that they already had with Netscape. And here, let's take a minute to think about the fact that if Netscape accepted the offer, Internet Explorer would have never existed, and lots of developer programs would have never existed. Anyway, Netscape commissioned it to Brendan Eich. They commissioned a really simple, basic-alike language to enrich web pages. Since then, not much happened, meaning that browsers adopted it, was renamed from LiveScript to JavaScript. Anyway, in 2008, a technical committee, 39, made of prominent engineers from big tech companies in the Silicon Valley, formed this technical committee, which had the scope of advancing the JavaScript language itself. The first product of TC39 was ECMAScript 5, which is the world's most readily available language. Pretty much every one of you has a JavaScript interpreter in your pocket. The phone has a browser which is running off JavaScript. Since then, specifically since 2015, there have been yearly releases, and we look to that in a minute. Okay. JavaScript today is everywhere around us. You can find mobile applications, you can find web applications, desktop applications, web servers, and embedded devices. Most of the time, you don't really realize that you're using a JavaScript-based application because it's not sold or marketed to you as that. A great myth to debunk is that JavaScript is slow. JavaScript today is blazingly fast. Walmart uses JavaScript node service to handle Black Friday sales, and if it works for them, I'm pretty sure that it's going to work for your traffic too. JavaScript, however, is not that great and has many problems. First of all, for most, it was not intended for the way they use the video today. The same applies to HTML and CSS. Originally, it was meant to enrich web pages, not to make web applications or apps for your phone. Programming-wise, it doesn't have a good story for object-oriented programming. It doesn't have a good story for asynchrony, and considering that everything after the first page load in your browser is asynchronous, and it's really not good enough. Developers worked a way around this, which was to tell the browser, hey, let me know when you finished, or when the user does something, and do this bit. However, composing these kind of interactions became really difficult really quickly, and developers quickly note that as overkill. There is another problem that a lot of people don't talk about, that each browser implements their own JavaScript parser, which in terms means that they have bugs in their implementation, and there is also some problems with the language itself. However, nobody of the browser vendors are really happy to fix these problems, because we developers build websites that uses those problems and rely on those problems, which means that if a browser vendor fixes that problem, your website is going to break, and from a vendor perspective, it means that the user is going to switch to a different browser because your website doesn't work in that browser anymore. So, go back a second. So, the major prominent funny part is that the type of null in JavaScript is an object. If you go forward, this is pretty much the stage of JavaScript across the years until recently. So, yes, 2015 to the rescue. TC39 in 2015, and obviously since 2009, I've been working on a new version, a much improved version of JavaScript, which was developed on a feature basis. So each meeting some features would get proposed, and there would be assigned a stage 0, which was a strawman proposal, and then previous meetings proposals would be advanced up to a stage 4, which means releases. This kind of model allows TC39 to develop many versions, not just 2016, 17, 15. When a proposal reaches stage 4, it means that it's going to get included in next year JavaScript releases. So there is no set in stone deadline for each stages. This also means that the browsers will be forever catching up, because we want our applications to run even on older browsers, which obviously do not implement the latest features. The latest version of most browsers is ES 2015 compatible and has many features of ES 2017, but we can't rely on the fact that everybody's running the latest version of the browser. Not everybody is cutting edge like that. Fortunately, most things are polyfillable or desugarable down to ES5, which means that everybody can get to run their code. So, what's new in JavaScript? I really don't want to bother you and get into too much techy details. This is a list of features that have been new in ES 2015. So, constant length, blocking scope, there are functions, auto-return, default parameters, stress and spread operators, string interpolation, properties shorthand, modules, classes, generations, and promises. However, is that really enough to make JavaScript a fully fledged language? Not really. It's not great again yet. To have a really fully fledged language, we need to look into 2017 at least. We really need features like object values and entries and async and await, rest and spread object properties. And for those who are into object-oriented programming, we need decorators and private members functions. I think you skipped one. Okay, why can you use it? Well, the answer is today. There is a great software that is absolutely free. It's called Bubble, that has plugins for every single proposal, even for the abandoned one, and allows you to compile your ES 2017 JavaScript down to ES5 today. However, ES 2015 implements modules, which are, from a developer perspective, great, because it means that we can reuse part of our code, we can share among applications, we can share among other developers. However, browsers understand only big files, big JavaScript files, so we need a bundler. At this point, anytime you make a change in your editor, you need to bubble, then to use a bundler, and it becomes really tedious. So you can just automate the pipeline, so when you push save in your editor, there is lots of tools, just runs bubble, runs a bundler, and inserts a new version of the JavaScript ready for you to your browser. Why would you want to do it? Well, I believe that allows you to use newer syntax, and therefore you can reason about your code better. It's easier to write, easier to read, which means it's easier to maintain. The less code you write, the less likely you are to make mistakes in such code. That's pretty much the bottom line. Another reason to use it is that it's a safe bet. Big tech companies are heavily invested into even stage 0 proposals. So you can't really go wrong. They can't pull out because they have a huge money investment in it, which makes a safe bet for you too. Enough. JavaScript fatigue. I already discussed many new things without going into details for all of that. There is a multitude of new tools. There is a multitude of new frameworks. And I even started describing the multitude of new single modules that have been sprouting from this JavaScript explosion that happened lately. So it's really easy for new developers and to get overwhelmed by all of that stuff. And even for seasoned developers that approach JavaScript, it's really difficult to get it all and understand it. However, one of the greatest things of being a software developer is that it's an ever-learning process. It's the beauty of discovery that makes software development great, in my opinion. So I think we should unfatigue ourselves, put a big effort into learning new things, especially the ones that are good for our own good. So if you're still not convinced that JavaScript is really everywhere and it's a good alternative, you can choose other languages. There was an effort to Pythonize JavaScript. It was called CoffeeScript. Microsoft developed a strongly typed version of JavaScript called TypeScript. Google went a step further and developed a C++ approach called Dart, and there is the forever popular functional programming languages that all compile down to JavaScript, Clojure, Haskell, and Elm, which is receiving lots of press reviews and lots of adoption that it's ever growing. All of these ones compile down to JavaScript. Another benefit from using JavaScript, from a company perspective, it means that you really need to hire developers that have one major skill. They need to know JavaScript. You can run a full stack. You can also move developers up and down the stack based on your company needs. So if there is not much front-end work, you can move them and do some back-end work, and vice versa. From a developer perspective, allows them to focus entirely on one language, which, as I said, it's pretty easy to master, but to truly master, then it takes time. It takes the usual 10,000 hours that it takes to master anything else. So, if you think about the fact that you could, I don't know, if it takes 10,000, if your backend is written in Clojure, for example, and the front end in JavaScript, then it takes 10,000 hours, obviously, to learn Clojure, to be a master of Clojure, and 10,000 hours to be a master of JavaScript. What about just the base 20? What about just 10,000? That's enough. So, what does the future of JavaScript really hold? To come back to the first slide. Well, nobody really knows. That's a good part of it. However, we can make some educated guesses. Specifically, there is some things that are quite set in stone. So, given the trend that we're seeing today, even more JavaScript everywhere, it's a given. NASA recently announced that they're using Node.js in their spacesuit, which means that undefined is not a function, it's a thing in space too now. I'm sure that we use Babel for many years because we need to run all the browsers and for compatibility reasons, so guaranteed that we use Babel for many years. Tooling, it's a personal wish of mine, I guess, of the community. There is no good IDE. The language is still not amazing. The errors are still quite poor. Better ability to debug. Today, on average, we install software in our applications that let us know when our software has gone wrong in the hand of the user. I think we should put a lot of effort instead to make sure that the software cannot go wrong in the hand of the user. So we need to improve on the errors and on everything around it to make sure that this doesn't happen. Given that developing is an iterative process, so you make a change and then you check if it worked, or probably didn't, so you need to adjust a little bit. Auto-reloading is a feature that Erlang had for about 20 years. Clojure had it for just as long as it was released. I think it's an important feature that we should have. That's it from me. Thank you, everyone. I'll be around if you have any questions.
I've got a question. Where does JSON, JavaScript object notation, fit into that?
Well, JSON hasn't really changed much through the years. So it's pretty much the primary way of communicating between JavaScript or between an application and its servers. Recently, there have been lots of efforts into improving because JSON in itself it's a platform that was never intended to be used for what we use it today. So big tech companies like Netflix and Facebook have invested and developed simultaneously without telling each other a very similar system. One of them is called GraphQL and one of them is called Falcon. They're both very interesting, and they obviously replace REST, and therefore they use JSON protocols, but they tend to replace REST. It's a step in the right direction. The adoption of both is quite slow because it requires huge buying from the tech company that decides to use them. However, GitHub recently has published the GraphQL API, and eventually we'll get there.